What if I told you that character design is easier than you think it is? A lot of beginners think a good character needs a million tiny details or that they have to have a 100% original design. Some artists even spend hours sketching, drawing, and creating characters that appeal to the largest and highest paying demographic of all time, Goonas. But here's the truth, you don't need to do any of that. I've been studying character design for years, I even made my own webcomic, and now have readers who like my characters enough to make fan art of them, which still blows my mind. So in this video, I'm gonna share all the character design secrets I've learned that'll help you improve your character designs just like I did, in a way that's actually easy to understand. And to do that, we only need to answer 3 questions. What's the secret to making good character design? How do you actually make your characters stand out? And what's the number one mistake that ruins a character design? Hint, you're probably making this mistake right now. Before I reveal that though, we need to answer the question, what's the real secret to making a good character design? Most people think character design starts with drawing. You just grab a sketchbook, you throw in some armor, maybe a giant sword, a glowing tattoo, and you're like, yeah, this is fire. Except, no, now you've just invented generic edgy protagonist number 47, or you just use the same dark hair and same face syndrome that so many characters who look like Sung Jin Woo. You can't just give a character a big sword and then call it a day. It's not always about the size of the sword, guys. It's also about the motion of the ocean.
That is contrary to what she said. Ahoy!
Here's the truth. The first step in a good character design should always be the writing. And if you skip this part, your designs end up looking like random cool stuff duct taped together, which is fine if you just want a meh character. But if you want a character people remember, you need to start here. The reason why iconic characters like Superman, Batman, or Goku's designs work isn't just because their designs look cool, it's also because their visuals are rooted in their writing. Superman is written as a bright and hopeful character, so his design is full of bright, hopeful colors. He doesn't have a mask to hide his face, and he has big red underwear on the outside. The underwear is something people usually make fun of, but from a design perspective, it makes sense. It humanizes him as a character and makes sure this overpowered demigod-like character who can destroy buildings, it makes him less intimidating to the people he's saving. Except for Snyder's Superman. He had no underwear and he was always just, aura farming instead of just saving people. On the opposite end of this design spectrum, you have Batman, who's written as this Dark Knight vigilante. He still has a cape because people just associate capes with heroes, but at the same time, he has a more edgy look that just lets you know that this man will send you to the hospital for even thinking about crime.
Jaywalker.
No, come on, man, please. I promise I'll never jaywalk again.
Nah, you'll never walk again.
Another aspect of Batman's character design that's affected by his writing is the fact that he's a human being with no powers. So if you're gonna design a character like that, you're gonna have to give them armor, you're gonna have to give them gadgets. Unlike Superman, who just flies around in tights. He doesn't need all that because, he's practically... A character like Goku, at his core, is written as a martial artist, and he just loves to fight, so his design is inspired by real-life martial artists. So when you look at Goku, you just know, he just wants smoke.
Niggas think I'm fighting to save the day, but really, nigga, I just like to fight!
Now that we've established that a good design needs good writing, how do you do this? Let's make it easy for you. Step 1, the setting. It is 10 times easier to come up with good character designs if you've already done some world building. Let's go back to that Batman example, okay? Gotham shapes everything about his design. Gothic buildings, shadows, gargoyles. His design makes sense in that setting. If you drop him into Bikini Bottom, he suddenly looks like a depressed scuba diver.
I am under the water. Please help me.
Every setting in fiction can be boiled down to when and where does this character exist, like here on this chart. When could either be in the past, like the Croods or Flintstones, modern times, like Invincible, Solo Leveling, One Punch Man, or the future, Cyberpunk Edge Runners, or even Batman Beyond. The when influences your character design because different time periods have different dress codes. Can you imagine how weird it would be to be watching a medieval fantasy and seeing a character in sweatpants and a backwards hat? That only makes sense if it's time travel or a bad SNL skit. After you figure out your where, come up with your when. The where could either be exactly like our world, those based on a true story movies like Oppenheimer, an alternate version of our world like the MCU, Avengers being a slightly different version of New York, or a completely imaginary world with different continents and history. That's things like Naruto, or both Avatar franchises, the one with the blue people and the one with the benders. Game of Thrones, completely made up worlds. Now that you have your character setting, how can we make the writing even better? You do that with step 2, character personality. Now, character personality is a topic that I think a lot of people on the internet overcomplicate. Whenever I would look up videos of this, or I would search for articles or blogs or tutorials that gave me these long lists that I needed to figure out about my character, it's like you don't need to know what your character ate for breakfast. You don't need to use the Myers-Briggs personality test to make sure your character's personality was pure INFJ or ESTJ, and you don't need to know whether your character would be Team Huda or Team Olandria, even though if your character is Team Huda, that is a red flag. You know what? Yeah, I'm a man, and I'll admit it. I watched Love Island this year. No, listen, you're not about to judge me when everybody was. I just needed to see what the hype was about. So, how can we simplify you creating your character's personality? This is the core of what you need. Who are they? That's their archetype. What do they want? That's their goal. And why do they want it? That's their motivation. Having these three will improve your character designs and your writing like crazy. Beyond this, you can also factor in a character's flaws and their strengths, but this is like the core of their personality. Let's go back to the Batman example. Who is Batman? Batman is a vigilante, so of course his design needs a mask. What does he want? Batman wants to strike fear into criminals. This scary bat design helps with this goal. And why does he want it? To protect and save the people of Gotham. So the mouth space on his mask design allows him to be able to talk to the people he's saving. Also, so that the Gotham police don't think he's a nigga. Before I share the rest of the character design secrets I've learned over the years and we get to the good stuff like how to design them, let me show you how I practically followed the writing process when designing my own characters. So, for the first step, I decided that the setting of my webcomic was going to be modern times on the when side of the diagram. So, when my main character isn't in his super suit, instead of seeing him in medieval clothing, you'll probably see him in regular modern clothes like he wears to his day job as an architect, just like everyone else in the comic. Now, for the where, I chose the alternate world side of things, meaning the comic is set in an alternate version of Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya. So it's basically Nairobi, except it's under a dome. That means most of the character designs you'll see from the main character to majority of them will be drum roll please, black people. Yeah, Kenya has black people. Who would have thought? Guys, I keep getting asked this question, so I just had to address it right now, real quick. The characters in my comic are black because majority of Kenyans are black. That's kind of reflected in the design choices. I don't know. I have to keep bringing this up, but yes, that's another example of setting affecting designs. Okay, as for step 2, the who is my main character, Project N. He is a human bee hybrid, a part of a race of beings called insectids. What he wants is to learn more about his secret heritage and master his powers, and his why is to protect his family and himself from a company that wants him dead for just existing. Now, using this info, I gave him a suit design that looks like a bee humanoid, complete with these giant wings and black and yellow stripes. Other characters in the story also have their own insect designs, other insectids like locusts or ants or termites, and that's reflected because of the world building and the setting that I've created. Now, the next design secret I'll share is probably one of the most important ones we'll cover in this video, so you need to pay attention. But before we get to that, if you want to check out the webcomic and get some inspiration or just some entertainment, you can click the link in the pinned comment or go to drelexcomics.com. It's free. You can read it for free. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with Ben 10. I even had one of those toy Omnitrix watches, the kind that made the transformation sound. I loved that thing. Until a classmate snitched to the teacher and she confiscated it because we weren't supposed to bring toys to school. I'm still not over that. That's besides the point. How does this relate to character design? Before she took it, I used to stare at that thing for hours. Like, whenever Ben was about to transform, the Omnitrix would flash and only show the outline of the alien. And somehow, I could always tell exactly which alien it was. Forearms, Accelerate, Wildmutt, Cannonbolt, like just from a black shape on a tiny screen. Every alien was instantly recognizable. A great character design doesn't need color or details to stand out. Those can help, but what's even more important is your character's silhouette. If you don't believe me, let's play a quick game right now. I'll flash a few silhouettes on screen. No details, and just see how many you can guess. Let's go in 3, 2, 1. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, There's five. If you guessed most of these instantly, that's the power of a silhouette. You know you have a good character design when you can strip away every color and detail, but people still know who it is. So how do you do this? Here's four tools you can use to create an iconic silhouette for your characters. Number one is physical features. Physical features are the built-in things on your character's body that would still make them recognizable if they were standing with no clothes or props. So a silhouette with tall sausage afro hair like this, you know that's Marge Simpson. A toothy mouth with a super long tongue, that's obviously Venom. Ears that shoot out the side of the head, that's Shrek. When you see this rugby head, you already know who this is.
Hi.
You can also use proportions. Now, physical features and proportions seem the same, but they're very different. Proportions are the overall balance of body parts. So that's height, width, limb length. While features are the unique elements that stick out: horns, tails, big ears, weird hair. So Shrek's body has chubby proportions, but his unique features are his ears. Squidward's main physical features are his big nose, his big head, and his tentacles. But notice how when he becomes handsome Squidward, the features of his head and tentacles stay, but the proportions of his body change. He goes from skinny Squidward, skinny fat, to jacked and chiseled. That's the difference between proportions and features. Accessories. Accessories are the removable extras: clothes, weapons, props. They don't change the body itself, but they can make their silhouette stand out. My favorite example of this are the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They all have the same body type and physiology of being giant turtles. Most people should be confused, but they can still tell them apart. Other than the color of their masks, you can still differentiate them by their weapons. So you know the katana is Leo's, you know the nunchucks are Mikey's, you know Donatello has a staff, and you know Raph has the size. Another example is Thor. Without his hammer, he's just a buff blonde guy in a cape. His silhouette could literally be mistaken for sentries, but the hammer makes him unique. His helmet is another accessory. It's not used as much nowadays, but you get the point. Body language. Now, body language is the natural way a character stands, moves, and carries themselves. It gives their silhouette personality and makes them recognizable even without details. Look at this silhouette. It could literally be any character in existence because he doesn't have any accessories, any weird proportions, any standout physical features. But what happens when I show you the same character with different body language? Now you know who this is instantly. It's Spider Man. That's with no unique features or no crazy anything. That's just his body language. That's the power of your character's personality and body language. Now, you can use any of these four tools or you can mix them all. Either way, they'll help your character's silhouette be iconic and stand out. Before a character says a single word, your brain's already judged them. That's because humans are wired to read shapes instantly. Shapes have an actual psychological effect on the mind. So sharp shapes feel dangerous, round shapes feel safe, flat, squared off, sturdy shapes feel reliable. It's the same psychology that makes us cautious of knives, but comfortable with balloons, and you can build and rely on a building with bricks. Your audience doesn't analyze it, they just subconsciously feel it. There's three primary shapes you can use in your character designs: circles, triangles, and squares. What the shapes mean. So circles will probably translate the feeling of safety and approachability. That's like Pops from Regular Show. Him and his giant bobblehead just seem like he's innocent and friendly and like somebody you'd want to have a conversation with. Mickey Mouse is the same way. Homer Simpson and his round belly and his goofy, harmless personality. For squares, you'll have stability, dependability, and strength. That's like Carl from Up. Stocky, square body, and he's just stubborn and immovable. Superman, especially in the animated series, you'll notice they designed his character with a square chin, square jaw, square body proportions, just to communicate that this guy is built like a wall, and it makes him solid and trustworthy on a subconscious level. Obviously, you can't talk about square characters without bringing up SpongeBob. Now, say what you want about him, but he's a pretty dependable character, and he's always there for the people who need him. The only thing you can't rely on SpongeBob to do is pass his boating test. Triangles are they just help the reader. They translate as sharp, dangerous, and unstable. So that's characters like the Green Goblin with his pointy chin, his glider with blades. He just seems like chaos, you know. And then there's Wolverine with his sharp claws and his mask. he's definitely a character who you look at and you're like, okay, that guy is unstable. Most characters aren't just one shape, they are a mix of different shapes, but usually one shape dominates, setting the main vibe. Make sure you're thinking about the psychology and the feeling you want to evoke in your reader from a certain character you're designing. That's why I actually designed my character with sharp stripes and wings instead of more straight stripes and round wings like the B movie, just to convey that Project N is a dangerous character. Now, there is an exception when it comes to this psychology. You can break the rules on purpose and flip the shapes for contrast. This is what I mean. So yeah, circles hug you, squares protect you, and triangles stab you. But the fun part, sometimes you can just lie to the audience with the shapes. And that's when the character becomes memorable. So, for example, Boss Baby, he's literally a baby shape. And he's made up of all these circles and soft just shapes in general, but he acts like a ruthless CEO. You see that, how that contrast, how that's just like this opposites thing where you're like, oh, that's a weird character. Or another example is the Powerpuff Girls. They look really round and cute, very overpowered, and sometimes they'll just break into prison and beat up Mojo Jojo. What was the reason for all this? Look at this. Why did you do? He was already in jail.
I don't want peace. I want problems always.
You could also make an evil looking triangular character design, contrast, and turn out to be a good person, like the Dark Knight himself. Okay, we figured out how to write your characters, how to give them a good silhouette, and how to pick the right shapes to use in their designs. The last secret to a good character design on the chart is color psychology, which will help you pick the perfect colors for your character. You need to learn this way before we can answer the last two important questions on the roadmap. How do you actually make your character design unique, and what's the number one mistake that ruins character designs that beginners make? Now, when I first tried to learn color theory for my own characters, I went down a YouTube rabbit hole. Every video I watched told me how to pick colors that go well together, but not what those colors meant. Like, why choose red over green when I'm designing a character, or blue over purple? They never told me what emotions the colors give off and how to use them. Then, as I was randomly learning about a different topic, logo design, that's when I first found out that colors could literally change our mood and the way we think about certain brands. And I was shocked. Like, I thought red was just red and blue was just blue, but then I realized entire companies have teams dedicated to picking the right colors to convey the right message and to manipulate our brains. So that's like fast food restaurants always have red and yellow. That's McDonald's, KFC, Burger King. You think that's a coincidence? You think it's a coincidence that all these health brands use green and brown, which is very similar to nature? Even if the product is like it's full of sugar, they'll just try and use some green and brown packaging to make it seem organic. That's not a coincidence. You think Facebook just randomly picked the color blue? No, blue builds trust. It makes people subconsciously feel safer handing over their personal data. Spoiler, you probably shouldn't have, but either way, on a subconscious level, Facebook being blue instead of red helped with the perception of safety for you to hand over your details to them. Once you see color psychology and its impact, you can't unsee it. Colors are not random, they are psychological shortcuts, and you can use them to make sure you convey the right feeling to the audience about your character. What do different colors mean? Let's go with the first one, red. Red can convey a sense of energy, passion, or danger. It's great for really bold characters or really violent villains. So the energy, the danger, the passion, the speed, that's characters like The Flash. You have Red Hulk for the danger. You have Deadpool, you have Daredevil, Lightning McQueen, again, another speed character. Knuckles, very dangerous. Blue characters, these are mostly the ones that you can trust. They're a bit more loyal, a bit more calm, a bit more responsible. Think about Superman, think about Captain America, think about Leonardo from the Ninja Turtles. He had the blue mask and he was the leader. Even when it comes to regular show, Mordecai was more responsible than Rigby. Blue gives off that trust me bro vibe. Green is usually nature or toxic or danger or even alien or non-human. So a good example is Poison Ivy or Swamp Thing. They have the nature angle. You see Poison Ivy and Swamp Thing, you can be like, okay, yeah, that's a nature-based character. Poison Ivy is also, though, an example of green being toxic or dangerous, like acid, when used on villains. Other villains with green are like Green Goblin or dangerous anti-hero like characters like the Hulk. He's green, he's big, green, and mean. Green, when used on heroes or protagonists, can be used to convey that they have a bit of non-human or alien aspects to them. So for example, Ben 10 and his green jacket works because he literally turns into aliens. Another example of a green character with a bit of an alien angle is Green Lantern. He literally has an alien ring that gives him a very advanced imagination construct based powers. And what's his color? Green. If you want to take this even further, you could make the character's skin green to really convey that they're not human. So that's Beast Boy, Gamora, the TMNT, Shrek, even Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc.
You know who else has green skin?
My mom!
Yes, Muscle Man. Yellow gives off happiness and notice me energy. It's very playful. You'll see this with SpongeBob, Pikachu, Minions, Winnie the Pooh, Jake the dog. Super bright, super fun, very impossible to ignore. Purple can mean royalty or power, but it can also be twisted into evil. Nice characters with purple could be like Chowder or Barney, but dark purple characters outnumber nice like purple characters. So that's like the Joker with his purple suit, Thanos with his purple skin, Raven from the Teen Titans with her purple cloak. It's very good for conveying power. White tends to be a very neutral color, so it can mean anything, but at the same time, I've noticed that it's really used well when it conveys futuristic vibes or coldness or wealth. So like think of like Kingpin with the white suit. You can definitely tell a character has a white suit, pretty rich or powerful. Future Foundation Spider-Man is instantly more futuristic looking just because of the all white suit look. Even Iron Spider doesn't look as futuristic as the Future Foundation suit, despite it having more tech. It's just because of the color scheme. Another example is Stormtroopers from Star Wars, or any scientific character with a lab coat. It can work pretty well. But again, it's a neutral color, so it can do a lot. Black. Now, this usually makes a character look way more mysterious and powerful and just gives them way more aura. So that's characters like Batman, Blade, Spawn, Venom. Black Panther would not have as much aura as he does if he was the Yellow Leopard, okay? The all black fit instantly increases their nonchalant, mysterious points, even if the character is usually goofy. For example, think about red and blue Spidey versus all black symbiote Spidey. It's not a competition. Even Invincible got the dark goggles, black and blue fit when he got serious. Catwoman would not be as mysterious and seductive as she was if she was wearing all pink. You can't even forget Darth Vader in this. I've never watched Star Wars, but I find myself thinking about that hallway scene a lot. Like the one where he's just walking and he's like, yeah, that scene was just aura. So save black for the characters who are gonna be pure aura farmers or the dark mysterious type. You could always mix like black with other colors like red, for example, Batman Beyond, or even just like the symbiote with the white symbol. That's another example of mixing it up. But some people do prefer the all black look, like Catwoman. Some people do prefer it all black.
You know who else likes it all black?
If you say your mom, you're fired.
My mom!
Get out!
If you guys want a full video going deeper into color psychology, just let me know by subscribing and then just leaving a comment. Because I think we've only scratched the surface. Like, I haven't even talked how to mix different colors to convey different emotions. So let me know if you guys would be interested in that. You're probably thinking, okay, amazing. I've taught you the secrets to a good character design, but everyone else who's watched this video is now going to use them. So how do you avoid making your characters not just like everyone else who's also watched the exact same videos as you? How do you actually make your characters stand out? Look, right now we are drowning in new characters. Everything from indie comics, indie animation, indie games, superhero movies. New OCs are being created every single day, and new fandoms are constantly popping up. So if your character doesn't stand out immediately, nobody's remembering them. Not to worry though, because I have some solutions to help your characters actually stand out, and they can be boiled down to these few methods. 1, exaggeration. 2, mixing ideas. 3, genre crossing. And 4, parody with a twist. So I'll start with exaggeration. Pick one trait and push it to absurd levels. Especially when it comes to proportions. So for example, you have a lot of tech-based characters, but then you'll think of Generator Rex and think of those giant fists of his. That's a very exaggerated feature. So if you exaggerate that to proportions that are ridiculous, then some people will just remember your character for that. Squirrel Girl, giant oversized tail. That helps separate her from all those anime cat girls, because if she didn't have the tail, it would be a bit harder for her to be memorable. Or Power Girl and her famously extreme proportions. Another one is mixing ideas, mashing unexpected concepts to create something fresh. So So that's just usually when you take two different ideas and then just kind of combine them. I did this for my own character when I took Barry B. Benson from the B movie and kind of my love for Spidey and a bit of Blue Beetle, but I'll be honest, it was mostly Spidey. When I mixed those ideas, it ended up creating something new and people ended up really liking the design, which is partly why the comic kind of grew. Genre crossing is another one. You take a character idea from a different genre and then translate it into yours. So I mean this by like one example. If you're making like a superhero story and then you make a big green muscular monster, everyone is going to say, yo, that's just the Hulk. That's a ripoff. But if you're making a comedy animated series and then you take the base design for, let's say, 70s Hulk, no one will even notice that you did it because it's a different genre. And yes, I'm talking about Muscle Man and how he was inspired by 70s Hulk. You see how nobody noticed? Because you crossed genres. So if you find some character in the horror genre and then you bring them into comedy, most people aren't gonna notice. Another final one is the parody with a twist. Just lean into your character being a clear clone of another, but then slightly tweak the design. Like how Superman versus Omni-Man. Omni-Man is literally just Superman with a mustache, or even Sentry is Superman but blonde. It's not too bad, and to be honest, a lot of people are kind of used to the fact that new characters are harder and harder to create, so maybe you can just lean into it. The final question that will help you with your character design is, what's the number one mistake that ruins character designs that most people don't know they're doing? Now, when I first saw Has Been Hotel, I thought the concept was pretty interesting. You know, the whole hell thing and how it's about redemption. I thought the idea and the world building was pretty intriguing. But then I kind of got into tried watching it a bit, and then I saw the character designs and they really lost me quickly. There's too many random shapes. A lot of the characters looked alike, and there was just so many details everywhere. Like my eyes didn't know where to land, and I thought, okay, maybe I'm just not the target audience for this. But then it happened again with something I am the target audience for, which is superheroes. Now, I loved Thor's like clean, bold look in Ragnarok. That was pretty simple, striking, and instantly readable. Actually, my favorite version of Thor is usually the Jack Kirby art because I used to read those comics as a kid. Then I saw Thor Love and Thunder dropping with that whole shiny blue and the gold redesign. I don't know what they were doing, and I just hated it. And it was so busy, it was so noisy. It actually made me even want to skip the movie. And just judging by the box office, I wasn't the only one. So that's the danger of over design. This is the number one mistake that a lot of people think. They think adding more to a character design will make it better. It doesn't. Over design just confuses people. It actively pushes them away before they even give your story a chance, before they even give your characters a chance. So the core mistake is clutter. Too many unnecessary details fighting for attention, no clear read, your eyes don't know where to look, mixed signals, and worst of all, it's a nightmare to redraw. So the fix is make sure you design your character or strip them down to their most basic principles and keep the silhouette as the unique selling point, not per se all the details on them. You don't need 50 buttons. Just design it for repetition. If you can't sketch it 50 times without rage quitting, it's too much. Like keep it bold, clean, and instantly readable. That is the biggest tip that you will learn when it comes to designing really good and repeatable like character designs. And then the best part about that is it'll also make it easier for fans to create fan art of your character. And I'm speaking from experience because I do have people who actually make fan art of my characters. So this is a big tip. Just keep it simple. Now, if you've made it this far, you probably do care about creating characters people actually remember. But a great design deserves a great story to live in. So if you're ready to take that to the next step, check out my video about making your first comic. I break down how to get your ideas onto a page, even if you've never drawn a panel before. So click it and let's turn that character design into a full world.